Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of FX Hulu's new science fiction horror show, Alien Earth Season 1. At least I hope it's Season 1. They have not officially greenlit a second season, which, spoiler alert, I hope they do because I really, really enjoyed Alien Earth. First and foremost, I am a huge Alien fan. Going all the way back to Ridley Scott's Alien, and then when James Cameron took over and did Aliens, I was all in. I didn't care after that. All the other movies in the franchise, hit or miss, mostly hit for me, even the bad ones. Even the Alien versus Predator movies, I can find a certain level of enjoyment in those movies. But I really, really love this franchise, and it kind of got a shot in the arm last year for me in one of my favorite movies from 2024, Alien Romulus, and it was a return to form, in my humble opinion, to this franchise. And when they announced that they were going to do a TV show, I was a little skeptical. I was a little skeptical because, okay, how can you put this in a television episodic format? With crews in on a spaceship or wherever they may be, running from a xenomorph. How are we going to do this for 8, 9, 10 episodes or whatever they were going to do? And I was kind of curious. And then they announced that Noah Hawley was spearheading this thing, and I'm like, okay, I feel a little ease now because I like Fargo, love Fargo. Um, Not all the seasons, there's a couple of weak seasons in Fargo, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed Legion, that came out a few years back, which was kind of a X-Men offshoot. Even though it's based in the X-Men universe, it wasn't a part of any cinematic canon. But I did like Legion, and I felt good for some strange reason. I felt a sense of comfort when Noah was attached as the showrunner, as the writer of this show. And the fact that it's on FX, which isn't going to skip on the gore or the language or the violence. Okay, I'm in. I'm in. Previously, I did review the first 2 episodes that came out when it premiered on August the 12th. And I chose not to go week to week with this show. I wanted to wait to the end and do an overall season review. I kind of regret that. And I tend to do that every single time I decide to wait. And it don't be because every episode be bang, 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 bang. Even though every episode of this season had its plus. It has pluses that I could have discussed every week. To be honest with you, in the spirit of transparency here, it really came down to Alien Earth or Peacemaker. I decided which one I'm gonna do every week because I couldn't do both. I just couldn't. I could not bring myself to do both every week, even though the episodes didn't drop on the same day of the week. I just couldn't do it. It was too much for poor old Kevin's head. So I flipped the coin and it fell on Peacemaker. If you follow the show, thank you, by the way. I do Peacemaker reviews for every episode when it drops. So I chose that way. I'm not mad at that, but I should have toughed it out and did every episode of Alien Earth because, like I said, I enjoyed this show so much until I didn't. And I'll get to that when I get to that. I'm not going to break down every episode. I'm just going to go over parts that I enjoyed and things that I didn't enjoy. There were some things that I didn't enjoy about the show, but I can tell you this: I enjoyed a lot more than I didn't enjoy. So it's a really really good show. Let's start off first and foremost. Alien Earth. This picks up on Earth. You know, if you go through, if you go through all of the Alien movies, and we've been through 1,000,001 of them, the xenomorphs have never been on Earth. Now, I know there's going to be somebody in the comments, somebody screaming at their phone or television and say that stupid, they had in Alien versus Predator Requiem, they were on Earth. I'm not counting those movies. If you want to count those movies, that's fine. The Alien versus Predator movies, I am not counting in the lore of Alien movies. Those were Elseworld type deals. I don't even no, I can't do it. I just cannot count it. I know I mentioned that I enjoy these movies, even those to a degree, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to include them in my in my Alien canon. But anyways, as far as an Alien property, we've never had an alien on Earth. And so that was the selling point for me. I mean, the nail in the coffin. We was going to be on Earth. And so how did it get on Earth? Well, this show picks up where a spaceship crash lands on Earth, and then we have this young hybrid woman and a group of tactical soldiers. They make a discovery that puts them face to face with the planet's biggest threat, and that is an alien. And I'm going to stress that an alien, that's a big threat to planet Earth. This show had so many surprises, so many unforeseen developments that took place. Now this show takes place 2 years before the events of the first film in 1979, Alien. And so this is a prequel, if you will. And so you have this ship crash landing on Earth. It has a xenomorph, but even more so, they have other different species of aliens. Now, I didn't really play them no mind, first and foremost, going into the show, because my focus is on the xenomorphs. You know, that's what I've been, for 45 years or 46 years, that's what we've been centered on in this franchise. It's the xenomorph. The crazy thing about this show that really blew my mind when I sat back and thought about it was the fact that the least threatening thing on this show was a xenomorph. That was the least threatening thing on this entire show, and I'm including humans. It was we were talking. You had cyborgs, you had synthetics, you had hybrids, you had other species of aliens, and then you had whacked out billionaire human beings. It was just a hodgepodge of villainy. And so you have all that, and the xenomorph is the least of your concerns on this show. And that's a plus. I'm not saying that as a knock. That's a knock in no way, shape, form, or fashion. Everything else was frightening to me, especially the billionaires, because that's real. All the other stuff is science fiction. The billionaires freak me out because they are literally walking around as we speak, or being driven around. And so you have that in the show. But what really intrigued me the most about this show were these actors who I know nothing about. Besides Timothy Olyphant, I knew nobody else on this show. And I was like, okay, let's go for a ride, because I don't know much about these actors here. Now, Sydney Chandler, who is the lead here, she plays Wendy. this hybrid. I don't know her or didn't know her, but I knew her dad. Not personally, but I knew, and I think everybody knows her dad, Kyle Chandler. Awesome actor. Awesome actor. Probably one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood. I absolutely love Kyle Chandler. I will watch him in anything. He's a part of Lanterns, part of DC. That's coming up. He's going to be playing Hal Jordan in Lanterns, and that's exciting to me. But anywho's, his daughter here is the lead, and the first thing probably pops in everybody's mind: nepotism. She's a nepo baby. No, she can act. She acted. She carried this show, and that's one of the gems of this franchise. That's what makes this franchise, and I'm talking about the Alien franchise, such a powerful franchise for 46 years. Female leads. And this is in a genre where you don't have that. To be honest with you, you don't have that in any genre. Sadly, not too many of them. And especially something to last this long. And a franchise that is just centered around the strong woman, not a damsel in distress. Sigourney Weaver is a pioneer in that, or one of the pioneers in that. Her character of Ripley is still celebrated as one of the greatest action heroes of all time. Not one of the greatest female action heroes, no, one of the greatest action heroes of all time, and is rightfully deserved. But it has carried on. After Sigourney Weaver stopped being a part of the franchise, you had Nobi Rapace in Prometheus. You had Catherine Waterston in Alien Covenant, and most recently you had Kaylee Spady in Alien Romulus. So it's always had a strong female lead in those films, and the show did the same thing. This show manages to squeeze in one here, even though she isn't a human character or a fully human character, but a strong female nonetheless. Her compadres, her fellow hybrids, the Lost Boys, if you will. One in particular, Jonathan Ajayi, who plays Smee, is awesome. Now, what makes the Lost Boys so significant to me, and why I as far as the actors or the characters that I really followed and enjoy on this show the most, they are kids, and they have the personality of kids because their consciousness was not transformed, but transported into these synthetic bodies or whatever, and they still kept their consciousness. They're still kids, and the only one that really grew up was Wendy. Was Sydney Chandler, and the rest of them acted like kids. Now, most of them matured up, through the circumstances of the story that was being told, except for Smee. he kept the kid vibe throughout the entire show, and it was like watching a little kid. I forgot that was a grown man. He was that good. Now, is it difficult to play a kid? I don't know. I'm not an actor. I'm not, I'll go as far to say I can't act. But he really, he nailed it. I was super impressed, but I was impressed with them all in their progression through these 8 episodes, where they started off and where they ended were completely different for most of these characters. And we got to see them grow as the show went on, and the show took its time with it, but didn't linger. It did a good job of pacing through that story because there was so much going on in this season. But I enjoyed all of those kids in this Lord, all of these actors in this episode. Another actor who My God, just blew my mind. Can't wait to see him in whatever else he's in. I hope I don't butcher his name. Baiju Ceesay. He played Moreau, who was a cyborg. He had synthetic parts put in his body. He had a sword for a hand or whatever. I don't know what it's all type of stuff he could do. But he was so menacing as the antagonist of this show. And by the end, this in spite of all the stuff that he did throughout the season, you still kind of roll with him. You kind of on his side to a degree. Especially, his backstory. They did a good job of flushing out his backstory, what type of person he was before he was on the ship for those 65 years, and the fact that he lost his daughter and all this other stuff. And it was just, he has a tragic backstory. And the things that he did on that ship before it crashed, initially you think that he was just this evil individual, but not really, not necessarily. So you understand his character. It don't excuse the stuff that he did, but you get it. Timothy Olyphant. I mean, what else could I say? He plays Kush, or however you pronounce it, as this synthetic being. Man, I love Timothy Olyphant. He needs to be protected at all costs, man. That dude is phenomenal. I love, and this was the perfect role for Timothy Olyphant. Didn't think it, didn't, I was just happy he was in the show, because I love him and everything he's in. I think he's phenomenal. But sitting down watching him portray this character was like, man, you was born for this. You was absolutely born for this role. This was his tour de force, if you will. It's not the biggest role on God's green earth, but it is phenomenal in I actually enjoyed his subtlety. And when you watch Timothy Olyphant, if you've seen his past work, which I'm pretty sure you have, he's been in almost everything, but he has this style, the way he speaks, his speech pattern, and the way he moves, the way he, emotes. It just fits a synthetic. It was like he was literally bred for this role. I loved it. I'll be remiss without mentioning my favorite episode of this season, and I think everybody can agree, if you watched the entire show, it has to be episode 5, In Space No One. That's the title of it. And that was pretty much a mini movie. That episode, and that was an alien movie. It felt like not a shot by shot remake of the 1979 film, but it felt like the 1979 film. Everything from when the crew comes out of cryo sleep to the crew eating around the table, the aliens getting loose, and the insanity that takes place around, on the ship. It just felt like the alien movie, and they just threw it in the middle of this season. Like, here you go. Here you go. Just a little change of pace, if you will. And man, what an episode. This was the episode after it ended that I sat back and said, I messed up. I should have did a week to week review of this season, because I wanted to talk about that episode so bad, but it wouldn't have been fair to the other 4 episodes or 2 episodes prior to this. But this was phenomenal television. Yeah, it's hands down best episode of the season. But that doesn't mean that the other episodes were horrible, because every other episode had a Singular goal. It's like art. You could take each episode and hang it on a wall, and it will be just beautiful, But if you put them all together, it's just a great collection of art, and this is what this season was to me. Going back to the threats of this season of this show, like I said, the xenomorph was the least threatening thing, and it is a deadly, perfect killing machine. And it was the least deadliest thing on this show. It was the other ones. It was the other alien species that struck fear in me, namely the eyeball thing. That eyeball thing kept me up for at least 2 nights. Because it is so free. It was the freakiest looking thing and the most, I, I guess you could say, highly intelligent being that you can ever think of. And is more to come, hopefully, if we get a season 2, which I don't understand why they haven't greenlit that yet. But anywho's, it is frightening what that thing can do. Crawl into your eye, pop out your eye, and then take its place and control you. Oh man. Oh man, that is freaky. That thing is deadly and hyper intelligent. Hyper intelligent. And it is not about survival for him. It was displayed, I think, in episode 6 when he set up one of the Lost Boys, the one that went in to feed the species or the specimens, and it trapped him. It found a way to trap him so another alien species can kill him. Not so he can kill him, just so that thing can kill him. Just for the joy of it, just so he could watch. It was so disturbing. It was so disturbing, man. But yeah, the other species was more frightening to me than the xenomorph. Probably, at this point you're kind of desensitized to the xenomorph. But no, the other things are all whacked out crazy. Let me get to my negatives. My negatives of this show, and there's only a couple. A few. My negatives. Well, first and foremost, since it's the clear and present, I didn't like the ending. I did not like the ending of this season. Now I know it's a cliffhanger, and that's all fine and good. Who doesn't love a good cliffhanger? But the cliffhanger, when you start thinking about canon in the Alien franchise, I don't see how this can work. If we're going to continue on with this, how is this going to kind of coincide with what took place in the original Alien film? Because this is, like I said, only 2 years before those events. And that crew didn't know anything about an alien. They didn't know anything about a xenomorph, especially it being on Earth. So it's kind of weird how they left off. Now, if you get a season 2, pretty sure they're going to explain it away, and my worries will be vanquished. But as it stands right now, I'm kind of like, I don't see how this is going to play out, chronologically in the timeline of this story. But it is what it is. My second thing is the relationship between Wendy and the xenomorph. Number one, I don't understand it. Just to be completely honest, I'm not that smart. I don't know how they got this connection and how she can communicate with it. And now it's cool that she has superpowers, that she's able to control technology and control all the devices and stuff around that compound. But the xenomorph, the only thing that they have a quote unquote connection with is the fact that the one alien that damaged her in that battle, yeah, I think in episode 3 or 4, one of them. And okay, but that it wasn't like it left an egg in her or something, you know. And that particular xenomorph had no connection with her. You know, they took that egg, they took that, I guess, sperm from it and put it in the lung of her brother, even though, you know, the detached lung of her brother. And so I don't know how. Now, if it would have had a connection with the brother, I probably would have understood. But he's just a human. He's just normal. But her didn't make sense to me. It just didn't make sense. I rolled with it. I accepted it for what it was. Didn't mean that I liked it. You know, I didn't too much care for it. But it mainly because it makes no sense. It's kind of like out of left field. Once again, we get a season 2. All of this can be explained, and all of my worries will be cast away. But as it stands right now, no, it's not. It's not. It's not. My other negative, as much as I enjoyed this entire class, Jesus, we're not in school. This entire cast, there's one, and I hate to do this because there's only one. There's only one actor that I did not enjoy in this show, and that was Alex Lawther, who plays Joe, the brother of Wendy. And I just didn't care for his performance here. He was so bland. He was so bland. Now, there was one episode where I liked him, and that's it. And it wasn't even the whole episode. It was like a scene or two where I enjoyed him, but I didn't. He looked disinterested. He looked like he didn't even want to be a part of the show. I don't know if that's the character. I don't know if that's how that character was written, I should say, or that's just him. That's his personality. He doesn't really emote because there was no emotion. I felt no emotion from him. It was like he was just there, and he stayed around. You know, the entire show. It was just weird to me. I did not enjoy that character. I'm not going to blame the actor. I just didn't enjoy that character, the way it was written. But other than that, those few little things, I deeply enjoyed Alien Earth. I think it is probably the best version of an Alien TV show you can make. I don't know how you can make a Alien TV show any better than this. You know, yeah, I had my gripes, but when you really think about it, how else would you make an Alien show? There's no other way. This was perfectly made, I think. You know, in this franchise, the rules that have been set within this franchise, it followed it to a T. We didn't deviate from nothing. We didn't change any lore, at least not yet. You know, everything seems to be on track as far as what we know of this franchise. So it's a good addition to the Alien IP, I believe. And I give Alien Earth, all 8 episodes, a letter grade of a B. I really enjoyed it, man. I think it's an outline for other IP properties that can be made into television shows. You know, these movies that we love, these franchise films that they just throw out there. Maybe sometimes it's best that we transition to television. It's not the end of the world. You can make a TV show out of these properties, out of these science fiction films, these horror films, the action franchises and stuff like that. You can make TV shows, you know, that's faithful to the source material, yet tell a deeper story, a drawn out story where you can get more character development and things of that nature. Yeah, this is an outlier. I think this can really change the game. Yeah, it's really that good. I really, really enjoyed it. I was like, oh, real quick. I should have mentioned this first. The Peter Pan reference. Now, when you get this in the first episode, you you kind of like, okay, so this is the template. This is what we're going to kind of base the show on, with the Peter Pan references, the Lost Boy references, and all this other stuff. Even naming them after the Lost Boys, some of those kids, all of those kids, and uh, even have a Captain Hook, you know, with the character of Monroe. But as the show went on, those characters flipped. You know, the Captain Hook and the Boy Cavalier, they kind of flipped. And even with Wendy, the whole basics of the Peter Pan lore or the books was that Wendy grew up, you know, and that's what happened on the show. Wendy grew up. And so I love that they used that. Didn't understand the Ice Age references, but I'm pretty sure somebody smarter than me can figure it out. But anywho's, I would like to know, what did you think of Alien Earth? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you not even check it out? I would love to know your thoughts. If you did, though, email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Season 1, Alien Earth. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.